Good evening, I'm Nadia Jani and you're watching Anewz. Let's see your headlines. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he is pushing ahead with a plan to seize Gaza. EU foreign ministers meet on Monday to discuss the upcoming Trump-Putin talks in Alaska. And an earthquake in Turkey kills one person and flattens buildings. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he is pushing ahead with a plan to seize Gaza City. He says it is the fastest route to defeat Hamas, free hostages and end the war. But global leaders and UN officials warn the strategy may spark a humanitarian catastrophe.
This is the best way to end the war swiftly. That's according to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is defending his plan to seize control of Gaza City. He says the aim is to dismantle remaining Hamas strongholds, and he says free Gaza, while providing designated safe zones for civilians.
The war can end tomorrow if Gaza, or rather if Hamas lays down its arms and releases all the remaining hostages. Gaza will be demilitarized. Israel will have overriding security responsibility. A security zone will be established on Gaza's border with Israel to prevent future terrorist incursions. A civilian administration will be established in Gaza that will seek to live in peace with Israel. Israel's Security Cabinet instructed the IDF to dismantle the 2 remaining Hamas strongholds in Gaza City and the central camps. Contrary to false claims, this is the best way to end the war and the best way to end it speedily.
However, his plan has ignited fierce international condemnation from global powers and United Nations. Representatives from the UK, France, Denmark, Greece, and Slovenia say the plan risks violating international humanitarian law, could endanger the hostages, and would worsen the humanitarian disaster in the Strip.
In Gaza, children and babies are suffering from starvation. Hundreds of civilians have been killed trying to access basic food supplies. This inhumanity cannot be justified. The partial aid access Israel granted in late July has proven woefully inadequate. We have a clear message for Israel. Urgently and permanently lift all restrictions on aid delivery.
I'm extremely concerned over the prolonged conflict, the reports of atrocities and further human toll that is likely to unfold following the government of Israel's decision to expand military operations in Gaza. This marks a grave escalation in the conflict that has already inflicted unimaginable suffering. Now, for over 670 days, Palestinians in Gaza have endured daily killings and injuries. More than 61,000 people have been killed.
Meanwhile, protests are growing across Israel. Thousands have been taking to the streets, warning that the expansion of military operations could put the lives of the remaining hostages at even greater risk.
5 Al Jazeera journalists, including a prominent reporter, Anewz al-Sharif, have been killed in an Israeli airstrike outside Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza on Sunday. Local officials said 7 people were killed in total. Israel's military had admitted it deliberately targeted reporter al-Sharif, alleging he led a Hamas cell and coordinated rocket attacks, claims the 28-year-old had previously denied. Al Jazeera also rejected the allegations, calling the Israeli strike an attempt to silence reporting from Gaza. The Committee to Protect Journalists called the attack appalling and said that at least 186 journalists have been killed in Gaza since October 2023. Meanwhile, the Italian Ministry of Defense carried out its first airdrop humanitarian mission for Gaza. The operation, which will continue over the next few days, aims to ensure that all aid provided by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other donors are delivered to its intended recipients. EU foreign ministers met today to discuss the upcoming talks between US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, which will happen on Friday in Alaska. The EU's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, said the US can pressure Russia to negotiate seriously about ending the war in Ukraine and that any deal must include Kyiv and the EU. She stressed that international law recognizes all occupied lands as Ukrainian and the deal must prevent further Russian aggression. Ukraine and Russia traded fresh strikes overnight, with Kyiv targeting a key defense plant in western Russia and Moscow, hitting Zaporizhzhia bus station and the university clinic. The attack comes ahead of the Putin-Trump meeting in Alaska, as Zelensky renews calls for tougher sanctions. Reporter Fikrat Dolekhanov reports from Kharkiv.
Ukrainian drones have struck the Arzamas instrument building plant in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod region, a facility producing equipment for the aviation and space industries. Regional authorities confirmed the target was the city's industrial zones. In Zaporizhzhia, Russian forces launched 2 guided aerial bombs, one hitting the central bus station, the other a clinic at the Zaporizhzhia Medical University. Local officials say at least 20 people were injured. The strikes come as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky held a phone call with Azerbaijan's President Ilham Aliyev. They condemned Russian strikes on an oil depot run by Azerbaijan state energy company Sokar in Odessa, as well as strikes on other Azerbaijani energy facilities in Ukraine. Baku has warned it may lift its arms export embargo to Kyiv if such attacks continue. Meanwhile, the White House says any events involving Zelensky during the upcoming Trump-Putin talks in Alaska would likely happen after the two leaders meet. US Vice President J.D. Vance stressed Washington seeks a peace deal based on current front lines and will no longer directly fund Ukraine's war effort, though Europe is free to purchase US-made weapons. Zelensky insists there is no sign of genuine Russian steps towards peace, calling for more sanctions and pressure. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says arms supplies to Ukraine will continue regardless of Alaska talks, with new commitments already made by the Netherlands and Nordic states. Fikrat Dolekhanov, Elbrus Musayev, Kharkiv, Ukraine.
In an exclusive interview to Anewz, Kharkiv Mayor Ihor Terhov reflects on the city's resilience, the urgent work to rebuild and honour unbreakable spirit of the Ukraine's residents.
Mr. Terhov, you're recording video addresses to the citizens of Kharkiv after air attacks. How do they help people of Kharkiv? What's the effect of them?
Насправді дуже важливо, щоб люди були проінформовані.
These destructions that occurred, we work to clear them away quickly, put things in order and eliminate the damage. This is very important for us. People need help. This help is provided by the city authorities, our volunteers and international organizations. I am very grateful today to everyone who joins us in this very important but difficult work.
Mr. Terhov, imagine you're recording a victory message to the citizens of Kharkiv. What would be your first words?
First of all, of course, I want to thank our military. I will thank our people, the unbreakable people who stopped this aggression and who, in fact, with their lives and their will, have achieved victory.
Thank you very much, Mr. Terhov.
In the coming days, Anewz will share the full version of the interview on social media and other platforms. Right, so Europe has been...
Wildfires across Europe intensified on Sunday, forcing mass evacuations of people from their homes in Spain, scorching protected forest in southern Italy and across one of Scotland's most famous landmarks. In Spain's Castile and Leon region, about 1,400 people were evacuated from their homes as flames driven by sudden wind shifts tore through Leon province. The fire reached the town of Caricedo and the UNESCO-listed Las Medulas archaeological site, triggering emergency alerts. Some residents expressed anger over what they saw as inadequate aerial support.
This would have been controlled already if they hadn't taken out the aerial means at 11 a.m. when they left. We understand there are more fires, but they could have left at least one or two refreshing the area, but they took them all, and that's it. Look, it's now already getting into the houses. Look.
Traffic jams formed as residents fled, while emergency crews worked to contain the fast-moving blazes. Another fire in Zamora province prompted evacuations of people from 3 towns, while in Navarra's Carcastillo, helicopters tackled a pine forest fire. In Italy, crews battled for a 3rd day to contain a wildfire in Terzigno's Vesuvius National Park that has destroyed hundreds of hectares of woodland. Steep terrain and strong winds have hampered efforts to contain the flames, which threatens one of Italy's most visited natural attractions. Meanwhile, in Scotland, a wildfire swept across Arthur's Seat near Edinburgh, sending smoke billowing for miles. Police urge the public to avoid the popular tourist spot as crews work to bring the blaze under control.
From wildfires to rain, Japan's Kyushu Island is battling relentless downpours that have triggered severe flooding and mudslides. Tens of thousands have been evacuated in Kagoshima and Kumamoto. Kumamoto saw more than 40 centimetres of rain in just 24 hours, prompting a top-level alert. Rescue teams are actively searching for missing people. Travel has been impacted with bullet trains halted and power outages affecting around 6,000 households. We'll be back after a short break, so stay with us.
What is power? Has leadership truly evolved, or are the old rules of geopolitics still pulling the strings behind the scenes? Who is really powerful? And what makes people feel powerless? Our new series explores the secrets, strategies, and consequences of power.
Corridors are of great value to us. Construction works are being carried out on the Azerbaijani side, both rail and road.
President Aliyev and his team are working very intensively. We are also in close cooperation.
It will shorten the time from the Central Asia to Europe.
The middle corridor doesn't end here. Here, it becomes a force.
This is not only about national defense. At the same time, the defense industry has now become a serious economic force.
Turkish states are reviving their defense establishment and making a big mark in history in the defense world.
When we look at Turkey's breakthroughs, defense industry, and its strength within NATO, the merging of Turkey's power with that of the Turkic world means the emergence of an immense force.
Biz
We focus on paradigm-shifting, innovative fields.
I want my city to be newest, coolest, sexiest new resort city in the world. And that's my goal. If you want to develop tourism in any country, it's going to be much easier to do it if you have casinos as part of your entertainment industry. Our casino will be the largest in Europe and 5th largest in the world.
Welcome to Dream Fest 2025. Are you ready?
Let's go! It's on my mind. It's in my heart. Baku! Be ready when the curtain lights fall. Feel my heart beating when the crowd calls.
Every year we keep waiting for this festival.
Because it has a pure energy.
First time performing in my country, I feel amazing.
I've been coming here the last 25 years. It's just wow.
I love the city, I like the people.
I'm so happy to be here.
When I come on the stage, they will have to dance.
There's a lot of cool stuff that's been done. We're going to have an amazing show. Welcome to Azerbaijan. Welcome to Seabreeze.
Good morning, you're watching Anewz live from Baku to the world.
There's a long line of...
To truly understand this conflict,
As is so
we need to look beyond the normal
Asia-Pacific region.
Well, this is a major development, not just for the governments of countries across the South Caucasus and Central Asia. Its impact is also increasingly being felt in Brussels, London, and Berlin.
Join me, Nick Summerby, on Anewz. From my days playing in the Premier League to working as a broadcaster for the channels like Al Jazeera and beIN Sports.
This is Summerby, a glorious...
I've never been afraid to ask the tough questions to find out what's really going on behind the scenes of the world's biggest sports teams. We'll be taking you inside the latest stories, stats and dressing room secrets of the world's biggest teams.
Welcome back to Anewz. Let's begin to take a closer look at how the future of the war in Ukraine may look like. To dive deeper into this topic, I am now joined by Alexei Goncharenko, a member of the Ukraine Parliament. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Hello.
Hello. My first question is, Russia has targeted a number of Ukraine sites, including Azerbaijan soccer facilities. Do you think this was coincidental?
Definitely not. First of all, it's part of Russian war playbook when they attack civilian infrastructure to cause as many suffering to people as possible. But here it was not coincidentally twice, because I am sure they deliberately attacked Sokar, the Azerbaijan, Azeri state-owned company, because Russia today is very aggressive towards Azerbaijan, and they're very frustrated with the cooperation between Ukraine and Azerbaijan, especially the area. So that's why it definitely was not coincidental.
I see. And what do you make of the upcoming talks in Alaska between Trump and Putin that's going to happen?
This is very important day, very important moment. We have both hopes and fears. Our hope is that there will be a way to peace, at least to freezing of this war, because we in Ukraine, we need peace as soon as possible. At the same time, we have a lot of fears because we don't know how exactly it will go, what will be the conditions from Putin, what will be agreed by both leaders, because we want to have a real peace, not a ceasefire. And what is also important for us, that Ukrainian red lines will not be crossed, and also that Ukraine will receive security guarantees that Russia will not attack again.
And how important is it for the Ukraine President Zelensky to be present at that meeting?
You know, definitely we would like to see Ukrainian president there. From other side, for us is the most important is not who is sitting at the table. For us, the most important is the result. So if the result will be that Russia will agree to stop their aggression and that will not be accompanied with something unacceptable for Ukraine, that would be great. And we will say thank you very much, President Trump, for making this happen. And so that's it.
The Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has recently said that European countries will not accept Russian demands to seize Ukraine. What do you think about that? He's been quite, had a strong stance on what they want in regards to these talks.
Thanks to Prime Minister Tusk and thanks to all other Ukrainian allies who support us and continue to do this. It's clear to everybody that Russia wants to take the whole Ukraine, not just part of Ukraine. And this ultimate goal of Putin has not been changed. But we are sure that it will not happen with the support of our allies. So we thank to Prime Minister Tusk and all others for strong support of Ukraine.
And what do you think will be the outcome of this meeting? Do you think it would lead to a ceasefire or a complete end?
I think we have a chance. It's hard to say, it's hard to predict. But I think we have a chance, and I want this war to end as soon as possible.
And what do you think is needed for that to end? What needs to happen?
Trump should put a real pressure on Putin, that Putin will understand that he has to agree on a ceasefire and on stopping of aggression. That's the only language Russia understands, the language of strength.
And do you think this is going a step in the right direction now that Trump is actually meeting Putin?
It can be. I mean, in any way, that's good that there will be this chance and conversation. I don't think that is a problem that Trump is meeting Putin. Trump was clear that he's going to meet, and it's clear that you can't have a peace and agreement without meeting with Russia and speaking with them. So I think it's absolutely okay.
Alexei Goncharenko, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
After the break, we'll be back with key stories shaping the region. See you soon.
On World Business, we meet the boardroom leaders making market-moving decisions. And find out how leaders are dealing with continuous technological disruption.
I'm Orkun Amashov. Welcome to Dialogue of Civilizations. No man is an island entire of itself. Our true connections as species go far beyond digital technology. In this exciting new series, I'll be exploring a vast and fascinating history of connections between civilizations and revealing secret bonds that have helped societies, cultures and religions peacefully coexist. Join me and let's explore together.
I want my city to be newest, coolest, sexiest new resort city in the world. And that's my goal. If you want to develop tourism in any country, it's going to be much easier to do it if you have casinos as part of your entertainment industry. Our casino will be the largest in Europe and 5th largest in the world.
Welcome to Dream Fest Training 25.
Are you ready? Let's go! It's on my mind. Always in my heart.
Baku!
Be ready when the curtain falls. Feel my heart beating when the crowd calls.
Every year we keep waiting for this festival.
Because it has a pure energy.
First time performing in my country, I feel amazing.
I've been coming here the last 25 years. It's just wow.
I love the city, I like the people.
I'm so happy to be here.
When I come on the stage, they will have to dance.
There's a lot of cool stuff that's been done. We're going to have an amazing show.
Welcome to Azerbaijan. Welcome to Seabreeze.
Inside Politics delves deeply into the heart of global issues shaping our world today. Join me for your go-to source of political analysis from across the region and beyond.
Corridors are of great value to us. Construction works are being carried out on the Azerbaijani side, both rail and road.
President Aliyev and his team are working very intensively. We are also in close cooperation.
It will shorten the time from Central Asia to Europe.
The middle corridor doesn't end here. Here, it becomes a force.
This is not only about national defense. At the same time, the defense industry has now become a serious economic force.
Turkish states are reviving their defense establishment and making a big mark in history in the defense world.
When we look at Turkey's breakthroughs, defense industry and its strength within NATO, the merging of Turkey's power with that of the Turkic world means the emergence of an immense force.
Biz
We focus on paradigm-shifting, innovative fields.
Welcome back to Anewz. Now let's take a closer look at the key developments shaping our region. The long-awaited peace and interstate relations agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia, finalised in March and initialed on the 8th of August in Washington, has now been made public. The 17-article treaty confirms mutual recognition of sovereignty, territorial integrity, international borders, and rules out any present or future territorial claims. It also prohibits the deployment of third-party forces along the shared border. One key Azerbaijani condition, the closure of the OSCE Minsk group, has already been met through a joint appeal by both nations. The other changes to Armenia's constitution remains to be addressed before the formal signing. The joint declaration between Azerbaijan and Armenia, signed in Washington on Friday, has drawn praise from world leaders and international organizations.
The joint peace declaration signed in Washington between Azerbaijan and Armenia has been met with broad international approval. NATO called the accord a significant step for regional security, while the United Nations described it as a milestone in normalising relations. The European Union called the deal a major breakthrough, with High Representative Kaja Kallas praising both sides and the US for progress. Pace. President Theodoros Rousopoulos voiced firm backing, stressing the Assembly's readiness to assist in consolidating the deal and building mutual trust. Across Europe, leaders congratulated Baku and Yerevan on the breakthrough. British Foreign Secretary David Lammy hailed the progress achieved in the talks, calling it an important move toward lasting peace. During Sunday address, Pope Leo expressed hope that the US brokered agreement would bring lasting stability to the South Caucasus. Messages of support also came from Spain, Italy and the Czech Republic. In the region, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan praised President Ilham Aliyev's leadership in advancing a peace agenda for the South Caucasus. Georgian Parliament Speaker Shalva Papuashvili called the agreement a historic step toward reconciliation and regional prosperity. Leaders from Central Asian countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan also welcomed the deal.
Iran says it will not allow foreign powers to shape new transit routes in the Caucasus, stressing that regional countries must protect their territorial integrity. Our correspondent, Teru Shiraleu, has more from Tehran.
President Pezeshkian said after a cabinet meeting in Tehran, the corridor is not what has been exaggerated about in the news. The demands of the Islamic Republic of Iran have been met. He added, the framework of preserving territorial integrity, establishing a connection with Europe, and not cutting it off with the North, which was meant by Iran, have been witnessed in this issue. On Saturday, Ali Akbar Velayati, an advisor to Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, said Tehran will prevent the creation of what he called an American corridor in the Caucasus, no matter whether Moscow will join Tehran or not. Also, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Iran's position on the developments in the Caucasus are clear. Any foreign presence in the region can have negative consequences for its peace and stability. He said, we want to maintain the full sovereignty of all countries in the region over their territories and safeguards the territorial integrity of all countries in the region. He added that what is declared in the joint statement of Armenia and Azerbaijan on respect for the sovereignty of all countries in the region, respect for territorial integrity, and opposition to any border change are in line with the position of Iran. Araghchi also said Tehran is in continuous contacts and consultations with Baku and Yerevan, and that Deputy Foreign Minister of Armenia will visit Tehran on Tuesday, and Armenian Foreign Minister will phone him today. Iran's foreign minister said, "We welcome any reconciliation between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and we have previously announced our readiness to cooperate and assist in the peace process between them." Turaj Shiralilu, reporting for Anewz TV, Tehran.
Jordan will host a meeting on Tuesday with US and Syrian officials to discuss support for Syria's reconstruction. The meeting will be attended by Syrian Foreign Minister Assad al-Shabani and US Special Envoy to Syria Thomas Barak. This initiative aims to help stabilize the region following more than a decade of conflict in Syria. On Wednesday, Damascus signed 12 investment agreements worth $14 billion. Among them are a $4 billion deal with Qatar's UCC Holding to build a new airport and a $2 billion agreement with the United Arab Emirates National Investment Corporation to establish a metro system in the Syrian capital. Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan says ending conflicts in the region is the country's diplomatic priority. Speaking in Aksari, he highlighted Ankara's role as a stabilizing force for neighboring states and its self-reliance in security matters. Fidan pointed at Turkey's broad diplomatic reach from the Middle East to Africa, the Balkans and the Asia-Pacific, focusing on strong defense industry and counter-terrorism. He said this experience benefits other nations, citing work in Somalia as an example. One person has died in Turkey after a 6.1 magnitude earthquake struck the northwest province of Balıkesir on Sunday. Our correspondent Elia Aziz brings us the details.
Turkey was shaken around 8 p.m. local time late Sunday night as a 6.1 magnitude earthquake struck Balıkesir Sındırge district, sending tremors felt in cities such as Istanbul, Izmir, Bursa, Çanakkale, and Yalova. Turkey's Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya confirmed the tragic loss of an 81-year-old woman who was rescued alive from the rubble, but later died in the hospital. He reported 29 others were rescued with non-life-threatening injuries and that 16 buildings and 2 mosque minarets collapsed. Teams from the Disaster and Emergency Management Authority, known as AFAD in Turkey, were immediately deployed across affected neighborhoods, coordinating with local authorities in rapid search and rescue operations. Drones and ground teams carefully scanned the rubble as citizens were urged to stay out of unsafe buildings amid repeated aftershocks, one recorded to be the magnitude of 4.6. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan sent his condolences to the victim's family and pledged full governmental support, while Health Minister Kemal Memişoğlu also extended well wishes to the injured. Emergency teams have since wrapped up rescue operations, with no further casualties reported. Authorities continue to order safety inspections in case of more aftershocks. A comprehensive recovery plan will be unveiled in the coming days. For Anewz, this is Elia Aziz, Istanbul, Turkey.
Dozens of Afghan refugees, including women, children and the elderly, have gathered at Pakistan's Chaman border, preparing to cross into Afghanistan on Sunday. The movement comes after a government crackdown on documented Afghan refugees, with a September deadline approaching.
Families carrying their belongings waited outside a registration office at the Chaman border in Pakistan's Balochistan province. Some said they were returning home willingly, even describing themselves as happy to go back.
We have been here for 15 to 20 years, running a small shop. But now that the situation here has worsened and there it has improved, we should return to our country.
Pakistan has ordered all documented Afghan refugees to leave by September 1st, though deportations have already begun, according to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. More than 2.1 million Afghans have left this year alone, straining Afghanistan's fragile economy. Rights groups have criticised the policy, warning it leaves many refugees in legal limbo. Authorities in Islamabad say only Afghans with valid visas will be allowed to remain. The repatriation drive, part of Pakistan's illegal foreigners repatriation plan, launched in late 2023, comes as Afghanistan faces a new wave of mass deportations from Iran, prompting aid agencies to warn of further instability.
Kazakhstan's cultural capital has hosted a major film festival. It brought together talent from across the Turkic world.
The International Organization of Turkic Culture hosted the Urka International Short Film Festival in Aktau, the 2025 Turkic World Capital of Culture. The festival gathered filmmakers, young animators and cinema students from across the Turkic world, with participants from Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Türkiye, Turkmenistan and Tatarstan. The programme featured screenings, panel discussions and cultural performances, highlighting how cinema and animation can preserve and promote the shared heritage of Turkic nations. Exhibitions and displays showcase traditional art, photography and literature alongside the film events. The name Urka refers to a guiding star cluster in Turkic mythology, long regarded as a cultural symbol among Turkic peoples. The three-day celebration concluded with an award ceremony honouring outstanding works from across the region.
After the break, we're going to take a closer look at the aftermath of the meeting in Washington, which brought together the President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, and the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan. See you soon.
What is power? Has leadership truly evolved, or are the old rules of geopolitics still pulling the strings behind the scenes? Who is really powerful? And what makes people feel powerless? Our new series explores the secrets, strategies, and consequences of power.
I want my city to be newest, coolest, sexiest new resort city in the world. And that's my goal. If you want to develop tourism in any country, it's going to be much easier to do it if you have casinos as part of your entertainment industry. Our casino will be the largest in Europe and 5th largest in the world.
Welcome to Dream Fest 2025.
Are you ready? Let's go! It's on my mind. It's in my heart. Baku! Be ready when the curtain lights fall. Feel my heart beating when the crowd calls.
Every year we keep waiting for this festival.
Because it has a pure energy.
First time performing in my country, I feel amazing.
I've been coming here the last 25 years. It's just wow.
I love
the city, I like the people.
I'm so happy to be here.
When I come on the stage, they will have to dance.
There's a lot of cool stuff that's been done. We're going to have an amazing show. Welcome to Azerbaijan. Welcome to Seabreeze.
Welcome back. I'm now joined by Leon Cook, former Director of Communications at the European Azerbaijan Society and founder of Atticus Partners, who is in Ankara right now, and Orkan Amashov here with me in the studio. Firstly, Orkan, I just want to speak to you about the recent peace agreement. I think they've just published the details.
Yep.
What are the key findings from it?
Yep, so the peace agreement was published effectively an hour ago. It was initialed on the 8th of August, and we know the text of the peace treaty was agreed upon on the 13th of March 2025. It's absolutely interesting. 17 provisions are entailed at its textual core. Fundamentally, basically, a lot to say, a lot to absorb, but allow me to be very, very brief. Fundamentally, 1991 borders, in principle, they have been confirmed. Article 1 says in the crystal clear whether having confirmed the boundaries between the Soviet Socialist Republic of the former USSR became the international borders of respective independent states and have been recognized as such by the international community. That effectively means that the border delimitation and demarcation between these two countries, which is a long process, will take some considerable time, and that does not need to end in order for these two countries to finally sign and ratify the peace treaty. It will take some time, and that will be in line with Article 1. This is a very important point, in line with 1991 Almaty Declaration, UN Charter. Of course, the maps will be used. The maps may emanate from early 1975 and earlier dates, but fundamental framework contingent upon Almaty Declaration has been confirmed here. A couple of very important points. I think Article 12 is incredibly interesting because, as you know, Azerbaijan has a reservation regarding the Armenian constitution. That will need to be addressed. That's a prerequisite, and we know that once that obstacle is removed, parties, after initialing the peace treaty, which they did on the 8th of August, will sign and ratify it. And Article 12 is very interesting to that effect. They say that parties in their bilateral relations shall be guided by international law, and no party may invoke the provisions of its internal legislation as justification for its failure to perform the present agreement. That effectively means that Armenia, on the basis of what its internal legislation may entail, cannot possibly actually do something in the direction of militating against principles entailed within this peace treaty. And I think that Article 7 and 15 are incredibly important. They were agreed at a later stage. One of them is about no third-party presence along the conditional border. That's Article 7. And also, of course, Article 15, which is a long and complex article. And according to that article, the parties will need to withdraw all of their claims against each other. And also, they shouldn't be part of any third-party claim that could be initiated by any other actor on the global stage. These are very important. They provide legal certainty to be going on with.
Right, wow, that's really good. I'm now going to turn to Leon. Leon, my first thing, history was made last week when Azerbaijan and Armenia made the peace deal in Washington. How significant was that?
Good evening. Thank you very much for the invitation. I think Orhan has laid out the parameters of what the agreement is or should be, but I guess my question would be, is this the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning? A lot of things still need to happen in the runway now between, I would say, the parliamentary elections in Yerevan in June of next year. Pashinyan, who many think was lucky to keep his job, has now got a very short runway to make this stick with the hardliners, with the diaspora, with elements of the opposition. And so the articles which have just been articulated by Orhan about how this cannot or should not be unwound, at the end of the day, it does still require two sides to ratify this agreement and progress it. This is a preliminary signing of a peace agreement, but it is very, very historic because the Minsk group, the OSCE, with both sides now calling for its disbanding, couldn't solve this problem in 30 years. Azerbaijan and Armenia have negotiated on this text and this agreement in 2 years and have managed to do it on their own without also the introduction and help and assistance of the European Union, who offered it, I might add. And therefore, there is absolutely hope for a long-standing peace agreement. I think there is economic benefit for both sides regionally. And you might ask me next why the United States is getting itself involved in this. One, because I think Donald Trump understands that if he comes in at the last minute, he can wrap a ribbon around it and say that he has put this deal together. But at the end of the day, the United States has a commercial interest, and the preliminary agreement signed between Exxon and SOCAR a number of months ago is evidence of that. They understand that there is an opportunity here, and the body language between President Aliyev and President Trump in Washington spoke volumes.
Definitely. Thank you for drawing upon that point. And my next question actually was going to be about the surrounding region. So there's been a lot of nations congratulating President Aliyev, and the King of Jordan actually said that, what does this mean for, future relations? And I was just going to ask you that particular question on an international front and a local front regionally. What significance will that have on, nations?
Absolutely massive. I think that other countries in the Caucasus or to its immediate north might start be thinking about where they want to orbit themselves, because Azerbaijan and Armenia in the last number of years, Armenia by virtue of its loss of the territory which it saw as is, but the CSTO treaty wasn't enacted by Russia. They didn't come to their aid, so why should they bother to continue with that? They even had the base in Gyumri. That wasn't helpful in any event. The downing of the commercial plane in December, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back vis-a-vis Azerbaijan and its relationship with Russia. It had already managed to disband peacekeepers in June of last year, and it is now absolutely looking both east and west. But the literal agreement of the Caspian Sea, I might add, is another element to this, because in 2018 this was effectively sorted, which means that a Trans-Caspian pipeline between Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan becomes a real thing now that it has sorted this problem, or is in the process of sorting this. And then the European Union and other international actors have access to the fourth largest gas reserves in the world. So this is a monumental first step, which could absolutely raise the fortunes of both the Azerbaijani population, the Armenian population, and the wider region. The last point I would just make is that if you go onto social media, and Russian political talk shows are absolutely cock-a-hoop in their disbelief at how this has happened, why Armenia has walked away from its big brother, and yet they have done nothing to help them through this entire period. Therefore, a genuine rapprochement, a long-lasting one between Azerbaijan and Armenia is absolutely on the cards here.
Leon, I would like to specifically ask about the connectivity agenda, about this Trump route for international peace and also sustainability or prosperity. So so Iran is incredibly concerned about it, but their position has been slightly altered. Initially, we heard from their advisor to the Supreme Leader. He criticized it. He said that we do our level best to make sure that project is not put into practice. But then President Pezeshkian said something quite different. My question to you, what do you make of that connectivity model? Azerbaijan gets probably what it wants, unobstructed access to Nakhchivan exclave. Do you think that Prime Minister Pashinyan will be able to convince the local population, in particular before this parliamentary election, that this is the best possible deal for Armenia, and actually the sovereignty is intact as well?
Where else is it going to turn? I think that it understands that certainly within the course of the next 3 years, the occupant of the White House is an incredibly transactional person, and therefore Armenia's best interests are being served to be helpful to him, and which will enable him to say that he is doing his work well in terms of a peace president on the international stage. Iran can say whatever it wants, but it has no agency in this fight. They probably are worried about secessionist elements within their own domestic population, given the large number of them that are ethnic Azerbaijani. At the end of the day, though, this corridor, which will not be guarantored or guaranteed by the United States, but will be operated by probably US commercial elements. I understand 3 parties have already put themselves forward for it. This is exactly the same model as what the minerals deal is or was supposed to be in Ukraine, or why the Democratic Republic of the Congo have made overtures towards the United States. By virtue of their economic success comes long-term prosperity. And Armenia, if it is an enabler of that, will also be seen in those terms. And I think that is probably part of the calculus of Pashinyan, and that will be part of the lobbying and media comms strategy and efforts towards the domestic population in the course of the next year, effectively. I mean, I would make one additional argument is whatever UNCA, the diaspora lobbying group in the United States, thinks is a good idea, which is usually not the case, then I think he can say that I'm looking after the interests of Armenians that are in the country, not those that are in Burbank, California.
Now that's the real Armenian philosophy of Prime Minister Pashinyan, which effectively is concentrate on the local population.
And Leon, just before you go, very quickly, would you say that this is a success story for all parties involved?
Well, it's definitely a success story for Azerbaijan. I mean, they've won the war and they're winning the peace. They've come out of this with, if you think about Azerbaijan's trajectory over the last 15 years, 20 years, it got what it wanted out of the European Union in terms of the Southern Gas Corridor. It has stability again in the region. It has regained its territorial integrity. It is now going through the process of a rapprochement with its immediate neighbor. This is also an enabler to a longer-term prospect of something happening between Armenia and Turkey. So you can see the domino effect as a result of this deal, this signing. If this can be made to stick over the course of the next year, then this is a monumental effort on all sides. But I think both Azerbaijan and Armenia and those involved in the negotiation of this process and this document should absolutely be congratulated.
Thank you, Leon Cook, for joining us this evening. Thank you. That's all we have time for right now. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned to A News.